their life has forced them to do things that they never should have done. I've been around inmates. One guy's been in prison for 12 years total, but it was four times. 2 years and he got out for a year. 3 years and he got out for a year. 2 years and he got out for a year. Well, he's out for 4 years once, then he went in for his last 5 years. And the guy was a really nice guy. I want to say this really quick. I've met some of the most wonderful people that I've ever met in my life in prisons. And I've been in prisons for 5 years now, probably over 400 times. And I'm telling you.
Yeah, you do.
I love being
actually.
in prison.
Yeah.
I love being in prison with the people that are in prison because I'm one of them.
Yep.
In my own way. And some of them have just made mistakes. And my purpose here is to try to help them figure out how to come out, stabilize, and be productive, contributing members of society, and never go back, and to figure out what it is they did wrong. And so what I do is I just connect with people.
Right.
And then I try to share my life experiences and give them that encouragement that we all need. So that's kind of my approach is to not be to where it's like, oh, look at these people, man. They're like, they got leprosy. A lot of people view it that way, but I do. I love them.
Yeah, that's not the truth because, when I was out in Oregon, I had the opportunity also to sit with, I think there was like 16 of them. They were, it was in a prison where you get sent there from the main prison because you're given an opportunity to better yourself, and if you do well there, then you get early release, right? So we're sitting in there talking, and this one gentleman, young guy, he was really distraught, and he was really upset. And when everybody left, they let him stay, and we started talking. And he had been a Marine, and you hit right on why he was there. When he got out of the Marines, he was lost. He just wanted to be a part of his group again, with his guys again, and he couldn't find anyone. And he found a girlfriend who just happened to be a bad girlfriend because she was involved in drugs big time, and he just wanted to please her. And so he started doing the things that she was doing, and she wound up on the outside and he wound up on the inside. And he really at first didn't understand it until we were talking, and we got to the point where you just want to be wanted. You just got to find the right group to be a part of. That's not a good group. It's going to land you back here every time you join that group. So it's interesting that you said that because it was like, that's exactly why that one guy was there in prison. He just wanted to be accepted by and loved by people. But anyway, what I want to do is ask you, how did you get involved in all of this? This seems like such a big undertaking or a big part of the involvement of your life. So, how do you do that? How do you get involved in doing this? Or how did you get involved in doing this?
Yeah, thank you. As I've told you, I've had a lot of hardship myself, and in the quick version here, I got into some very, very, very difficult financial circumstances. I'm an accountant by degree. I'm an entrepreneur, business finance officer I got a good business career, et cetera. And back about 8 years or so ago, now it's probably been 6 years, there was a very bad situation in Norfolk, Virginia that happened where a bank that I was using, 5 of the top guys in that bank are serving prison sentences for corruption, and it was the Bank of the Commonwealth.
I was going to say, was it Taylor Bean? Because my brother worked for Taylor Bean, and they all went to jail too. So yeah, I got it. Yeah, so I had a large line of credit with this bank, and being an entrepreneur, being a developer, getting into real estate deals, a lot of times you have to use credit.
got to be very careful when you use credit, but my house was security for the loan, and my banker is on my board of my foundation, and he was prominent in that bank, and he had to change his career and leave that bank, and he was the key witness with the Securities and Exchange Commissions when the indictments came out, because he's a wonderful man, and he knew what was going on, and he left the bank because he saw what was going on, and he'd been my personal banker, and we'd done many things. I was one of his largest clients for some of the business deals that I brought him and so forth. And when he left, his replacement immediately called my line of credit. And he never should have called my line. And I didn't understand it at the time. I'd never been late on a payment, everything, whatever. And they used one of these banking terms that my ratios, my income to the amount of debt that I carried was out of line with the bank. And they wanted me to pay off this loan. And it was close to $250,000. And there's no way I could. And my house was the collateral, and they gave me 30 days to pay off this loan. And so I went in and had a lot of closed-door sessions with the bank. And to make a long story short, the reason that they were calling my loan was because one of the things that they were doing was the president of the bank and his son was a loan officer in there, not the one that was coming to me. They were foreclosing on people, seizing their property. The son would buy the property and flip it in no time and then make a fortune and use the bank's money to do that.
No way.
Oh,
really?
It was terrible.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I negotiated a deal, and I didn't want to lose my house. I mean, you never want to lose your house.
No, you gave him the garage. No.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
So this is going to answer your question as to how I got into prison. And so what it was the deal that I negotiated was that they would give me a year if I prepaid a year's worth of payments in advance. And I had to put $18,000 for the interest payments on this note on my line of credit into their bank so they could do an automatic debit each month and not have to worry about me not being able to service the debt properly. And that way they didn't have to worry about me. But they said that if I could increase my income in the next year, they would change the terms and give me, some relief here, et cetera. But they needed my houses. They wanted me to put my house on the market was the point. Well, the mistake they made in this negotiation was I agreed to all that because they did not tell me what I had to put the house on the market for. So I put the house on the market at an incredibly high price that nobody wanted to even make an offer.
Touche.
Well, thank you. Yeah. And so it was about $100,000 higher than market value, and nobody wanted to buy my house. And so, but during that year, I did everything earthly possible to work hard and start more opportunities for myself, and I doubled my income, and I came back a year later ready to change. They were going to term out my loan, give me a 5-year balloon type thing, etc. But when I came back, they refused to do it, and so we had a real big closed door session, and so I ended up having a business partner help me out and co-signed and guaranteed the loan, and we moved it to another bank. But here's the thing. I was in church, and I was giving my testimony, and I was asking the congregation for prayer to help me get through the situation because I didn't want to lose my house. I hadn't done anything wrong. I had credit of 783, never missed a payment, and everything was in good standing. Well, like I said, 5 top people in this bank ended up going to prison, and it all came out a year or two later. But so when I gave my testimony and asked for prayer, immediately after church, 2 guys came up to me, and they were African American, and they were in a worship team, and they introduced themselves. I didn't know them previously, and they said, "Hey, Steve, we didn't know you were a business guy. Could you help us?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And they said, "Well, we got a barber shop, and we've just got our licenses to have a barber school, and would you help us grow our business?" And I said, "Hey, anything I can do, thank you." So I went out to their barber shop, and it's called Master's Touch Barber School of Excellence. And I went out there, and this was a life-changing moment that I'm going to share with you. Their name was Steve and Fred, and they had a third partner named Harvey. I'm standing in their barber shop, and it's in a low income community. They had 9 chairs and pledged, could you help us to get into prisons and rehab centers? And I did one of those, Willis. What you mean, Willis? You know what I mean?
What you say, Willis?
And, yeah, you got it. And I didn't know what was going on. And he said, well, see, that's where we got our start. We were incarcerated 20 years ago for 4.5 years and 5 years.
Wow.
And we want to be there for guys when they get out. They had 9 chairs. Currently, 8 of their 9 chairs were returning felons there. And they were felons. Everybody in their shop was a felon. And they said, we want to be there for them when they get out because, they're going to have a hard time and we just want to be there for them. And besides, that's where we learned to cut, and a lot of guys might want to learn how to cut so that could help our business.
Wow.
And so yeah, that was incredible. So, I ended up hooking them up with a government program called through the workforce, called the WIA, the Workforce Investment Act of '97, I think it was, where they give people like scholarship money to get a career, to get retrained, to be able to get out there. And so it took me 6 months, but I got them to where other people that were having difficulty could get the tuition paid to come to their school, and we would go into prisons, and so here's the moment that it happened. So I got led into prison. There's about 6 steps, that I'll leave out in this telling of it. But I ended up in St. Bride's Correctional Center in Chesapeake, Virginia, and there were 300 inmates at a job fair where they bring people in from the outside. When they're within about a year or so of release, it's called reentry usually, and they're really grooming the inmates to get situated for when they get out, so that they'll know what they got to do, where they can get housing, where they can get their license restored, and different things. And so different employers will come in, they want to help them, and things of that nature. And so I go in and have a booth with Master's Touch representing them, and just share with these people, a good word on how you can improve yourself, and then started introducing them to taking care of their finances and so forth, and just encouraging people. And there were 60 people came through in group for an hour. It was like 55 minutes, and so there was like 20 vendors, 20 booths in there in a gymnasium type setting. And so they would bring them in 60 at a time for 55 minutes, and then they'd leave, and then another 60 would come in. So there were 5 groups of 60, 300 men that day. And in between one of the groups in the middle of the day, all of a sudden it hit me.
This is what you should be doing. Yeah.
I looked up at the ceiling of the gym and could see through the ceiling all the way up into the sky, up into the heaven. Yeah. And I just looked up and I said, so this is where you want me? And I went, it makes sense, because I love people. I love helping people. I love people that are going through adversity and struggles and trying to get back on the path. And I've got this ability and this background. So I ended up just 5 years later. I've been in 400 times, and the program's ready to be. I've got a letter from the director of the Department of Correction, Harold Clark in Virginia, that my program is ready to go to where it becomes a mandatory program and be taught in all the reentry facilities. There's like 20 of them in Virginia, but there's only one of me, so I can only go.
That's pretty hard to do. You're already pretty well consumed.
They've agreed to give me staff to recruit inmates that have a financial background and a teaching background, or one or the other, when I can get my Right Thinking Foundation financial education program to DVD with a facilitator manual to go with it. Inmates will teach my program, and I'll just circulate around and
that's
make
amazing.
Sure that it keeps up and running.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something, and I know a lot of our listeners are probably thinking this. Okay, so let me reset the stage. You're in a barbershop in a bad part of town, and there's 7 or 8 felons, or prior felons, in there. What was going through your head at that time? I mean, for some people, it's like, whoa, what? I'm in the wrong place at the right time. I got to get out of here. But, it seemed like you were just there.